Hello everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. How are you all guys? We'll be starting our today's session in a minute. Okay, let's wait for a minute and then start our today's session. Okay guys, good afternoon. Let's start today's session. So today's session will be related to financial statements, that is balance sheet and P&L. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon everyone. Acha, can you guys tell me why do we prepare balance sheet? What is the primary purpose of preparing the balance sheet? Why do we prepare balance sheet? I think we have discussed in the initial classes as well. Like, what is the primary purpose of making the balance sheet? To ascertain the financial performance or position. To ascertain the financial performance or financial position. Why do we prepare the balance sheet? Everyone in the comment section. Yes, to know the financial position of the company. Okay, that's correct. And what about profit and loss account? To know the financial performance, right? So we'll be studying about how the financial statements are being prepared, how they are being presented. Okay. Acha, tell me how many types of financial statements do you know? One I can see is the balance sheet. Another one is the profit and loss account. And what are the other category of financial statements that you are aware of? Or it's only the balance sheet and P&L? Are there some more categories? More types of financial statements? So basically there are 5 types of financial statements. Okay, 5 kinds of financial statement. First one is the profit and loss account. Okay, first one is the profit and loss account, P&L account. Then we have the balance sheet. Then we have cash flow statement. We have notes to accounts. And the last one is statement of changes in equity. Okay, statement of changes in equity. So you must be having idea of all these 5 statements, right? So profit and loss account shows the financial performance, balance sheet shows the financial position, cash flow statement shows the outflow and inflow of cash in the business, which is a real indicator, right? The cash flow never lies. Cash flow is a real indicator of cash. Then we are having notes to accounts. Like, I can't write each and everything on the face of my P&L, right? On the face of my P&L account or on the face of my balance sheet. So I'll be creating notes to accounts. It's just like that earlier in school we used to solve a question, right? So we write a fair answer in the main section and then we prepare the working notes, right? We prepare the working notes. Just like that in business, we do have notes to accounts. So anything you want to explain, you can do it in notes to accounts. Acha, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Okay, guys, fine. Let's continue. So I was talking about notes to accounts, and then the final statement we are having is the statement of changes in equity. Okay, any changes in the equity shareholders fund, any change in the equity shareholder fund is to be recorded here, right? Is to be recorded here in this statement. That's statement of changes in equity, and this is the only statement जो सबके सब भूल जाते हैं, right? If we talk about financial statement, you will remember profit and loss account, you'll remember what balance sheet is, you'll remember cash flow statement, notes to accounts, but you won't be able to remember this one. Now that's quite crucial. Okay, most of the people are not able to remember this one, right? Statement of changes in equity. So as per Companies Act, there are 5 types of financial statement. First one is balance sheet, profit and loss account, cash flow statement, notes to accounts, and statement of changes in equity. Please do remember each and everything related to this. Now, if you are a corporate entity, then you can't make a T-shaped balance sheet and a T-shaped profit and loss account. You need to follow a particular format, which is Schedule 3. Okay, Schedule 3 is the particular format. If you are a corporate entity, if you are having a private limited company or a public limited company, doesn't matter. Basically, if you have registered any company under the Companies Act 2013, then you need to follow Schedule 3. Okay, Schedule 3. Now there is a particular kind of format in Schedule 3. We'll be discussing about that, like what it is all about. But before discussing that, I would like to tell you that Schedule 3 is not in substitution of accounting standard. AS is nothing but law. Okay, AS and Ind AS are basically your laws and regulations, right? Now Schedule 3 is always in addition to what AS and Ind AS says, right? It can't override accounting standard or Indian accounting standard. It will never override AS or Ind AS. In case if there is a conflict between accounting standard and Schedule 3, always the accounting standards will prevail. Okay, always the accounting standards will prevail, because Schedule 3 is just a disclosure requirement for corporate entities, right? It won't be overriding accounting standards. This concept you must be aware of. Okay, if you are giving SEBI examination, ये concept आपको पता होना चाहिए. Is it a part of AS? Like, no, it's not a part of AS. It's a part of Companies Act. Okay, so we have Companies Act 2013 that governs everything related to corporate entities, companies, right? Schedule 3 is a part of Companies Act. Now, Companies Act is also a law. Accounting standards and Indian accounting standards are also a part of law only. But whatever stated in the accounting standards and Indian accounting standard will always prevail over Schedule 3. Okay, only this much thing you must be aware of, कि Schedule 3 से ऊपर है वो दोनों हमेशा. Okay, now this is the balance sheet format. A company needs to report in this kind of format. You can't prepare this format. If you are a corporate entity, you can't make a T-shaped format. Okay, you can't make a T-shaped format here. So sir, do we have to study this format as well? Yes, you need to study this format as well. You should be aware of at least the terminologies of it. Else most of the things are same only. You just need to read the terminologies, understand the terminologies, concept is the same. So it's quite a similar presentation, only here we are having equities and liability. right? So we are having equities also in the name, equities and liabilities. Then all the assets that I used to have in the right hand side, they did nothing but they shifted it to left hand side itself, and they prepared a vertical statement, right? Terminologies are also the same, only there are slight differences and some advanced concepts that we are talking about. We will be definitely talking about them in our today's session. Okay, just give me a minute. I'm just starting the balance sheet. I'll start explaining the balance sheet one by one, all the items. Till the time, just give a quick reading of whatever is written on your screen in the balance sheet. Okay. Okay, let's start, guys. Discussing each and every item one by one. So first, in the major heading, we are having equities and liability. In that, as a major subheading, we are having shareholders fund. Now in shareholders fund, we are having share capital, we are having reserves and surplus, right? And another terminology, money received against share warrants. Okay, first let's discuss about share capital. Share capital is nothing but equity share capital and preference share capital. We already know what equity share capital is, what preference share capital is. We have already covered it in the basic lecture, right? Then we are having reserves and surplus. Now we can have so many reserves and surplus like general reserve, capital reserve, profit and loss account reserve, right? These reserves and surplus belong to equity share capital only. Okay, these reserves and surplus belong to equity share capital only. Acha, this format is prescribed by Schedule 3 of Companies Act. Okay, so this is part 1, right? Just give me a second. Yeah, this will be the part 1 of Schedule 3. Okay, as mentioned by the Companies Act 2013. So all the corporate entities will be preparing their balance sheet in this format only, right? So we discussed about shareholders fund as of now, about general reserve, right? Reserves in surplus, and the another terminology, the for you must be hearing it for the first time only. Money received against share warrant. You can take share warrants as nothing but equivalent to your share capital only. Okay, share warrants are nothing but a warrant which will definitely be converted into share capital only in the future. Okay, so let's suppose if you want shares of my company, but as of now I have given you share warrant. In the near future, it will be definitely be share capital only. So we treat it at par. There is no difference between share warrant and share certificate as per our balance sheet. Okay, no, bonds and warrants are not similar, right, Twinkle? Bonds and warrants are not at all similar. Share warrants are nothing but a promise, a document that I will be giving you my share capital, right? So it is equal to my share capital only. That's why it is a subcategory of shareholders fund. Now you need to know the balance sheet, the structure of balance sheet by heart. Okay, you must be aware of each and every terminology. Like in shareholders fund, we are having 3 categories. Share capital. In share capital, we are having 2 categories: equity share capital, preference share capital. In reserves and surplus, we have general reserve, P&L, right? Capital reserve. What is money received against share warrant? So somebody has paid us money and we have issued warrant. That's similar to share capital only. So that's why I have written this as a part of my shareholders fund. Okay, as part of my shareholders fund. So this is the first heading, shareholders fund. Another heading is share application money pending allotment. Now this is another complicated term जो काफी लोगों ने नहीं सुनी होगी. Share application money but pending allotment. So basically what happened is you issued your share, for example, to general public. Now if you guys have applied in an IPO, initial public offering, right? So what happens is first the public subscribe to your shares, right? First the public subscribe to your shares. Let's suppose my issued share capital was 1 lakh rupees. So I have issued 1 lakh rupees as my share capital. Okay. But I received 1,20,000 as share application money. So this is share application money, but which is pending the allotment. Right? I haven't allotted the shares yet. So there is a process. First, you guys will apply in my company for the shares. Then I will allot you. So I have expressed that I will be issuing 1 lakh rupees as my share capital. But you guys paid 1,20,000. In total, I received 1,20,000 rupees. Okay. So guys, can I issue more than my issued share capital? I can issue only 1 lakh, right? This excess 20,000. I can't issue as of now. My issue size is only 1 lakh rupees. I can't issue 1,20,000, right? I can't issue that. So I need to refund that amount. Eventually, I need to refund that amount. That's what happens in the IPO as well. You get your money refund, yeah, right, in your bank account only via ASBA application. So in IPO they don't take it from you, right? In IPO they don't take it from you. But I need to show somewhere this money as of now. Let's suppose I issued my capital in February 2024, right? I will be allotting the shares in April 2024, but I need to prepare the balance sheet on 31st March 2024. So I have issued 1 lakh rupees. I received applications for 1,20,000 rupees. Now I need to show this somewhere in the balance sheet, right? Somewhere in the balance sheet I need to show it, right? Somewhere in the balance sheet I need to show it. So this 1 lakh rupees is nothing but share application money pending allotment. This is the share application money, but I am yet to allot the shares. I am yet to allot the shares. That's a good question, Twinkle. If the oversubscribed amount has to be returned, then why do we need to show it on our balance sheet? Because I will be returning it in April 2024, right? But as of now, I do have 1,20,000 in my bank account. 1 lakh to I can allot, right? 1 lakh to I can allot. So this 1 lakh rupees I will show in share application money pending allotment. I have cleared it, right? I have cleared it on the face of my balance sheet that I have received the application money, but I am yet to allot it. It is still pending from my end. I will be allotting it in April 2024. But I need to prepare the balance sheet in 31st March, right? So somewhere or the other, I need to show that money. Sir, but you to only considered this 1 lakh rupee. What about this excess 20,000? What about this excess 20,000? This is your other current liability. This excess 20,000 is your other current liability. You can't show this in second heading. Your second heading is clearly stating share application money but pending allotment. And you can't allot 20,000 excess. You can only allot 1 lakh rupees. So 1 lakh will go under the head of share application money pending allotment. Rest of the excess 20,000, you need to show it in other current liabilities. Sir, why current liability? Why not non-current liability? Because you will be immediately refunding this money, right? So this obligation needs to be settled within 1 year only. or I can say within few months only, yaar, right? I'll be repaying it in April itself. Okay. So what I did is I issued 1 lakh rupees, but the application came for 1,20,000 rupees. Now that's a problem. That's a problem. So 1 lakh I can show it in this particular heading, share application money pending allotment. There is a particular heading for it. But what about this excess 20,000? This is a liability for me. So I need to clearly state it in the other current liability, right? Right. So that we can clearly state that what firm has received and how much it can allot. So I have received 1,20,000, but I can only allot 1 lakh. So I have clearly stated it here. The excess 20,000 I have stated in my other current liability that I can't allot them the shares because I don't have the authority beyond 1 lakh, because the issue was in itself was up to 1 lakh, right? So in that manner, I'll be refunding these 20,000 rupees. And if I am refunding these 20,000 rupees, then I need to show it as other current liability only, right? Then we do have some non-current liability. That means those obligations that I need to settle in more than 1 year, right? Like it can be long-term borrowing. So in long-term borrowing, it can be bonds, it can be debentures, right? We do have deferred tax liabilities, and you can see deferred tax asset also in the asset side. Here it is. Okay, we'll talk about it in the coming few minutes. I'll talk about what deferred tax asset and deferred tax liabilities are all about. Okay. Then we are having other current liability. If you are not able to classify any liability above, then you can mention it in other long-term liabilities. Then we are having long-term provisions. Let's suppose some of your employees are getting retired in this year, in the coming few years, right? In the next 2-3 years, some of your employees are about to retire. So you need to create gratuity provision for them, right? You need to create gratuity provision for them. You need to create other provisions as well for them. So any kind of long-term liability that might occur in the future, chances of occurring that liability is highly likely in the near future. You will create a provision, long-term provisions. Okay. Similarly, we are having current liability. So in current liability, we are having short-term borrowings. Let's suppose I am having a bank overdraft, right? Or I am having a cash credit limit. So I can show it in my short-term borrowings, right? These are my short-term liabilities. We have trade payables. Trade payables, we also call them as creditors, right? Then we are having other current liabilities and short-term provision. Maybe some of the employees are getting retired this year only. Then I need to create a short-term provision for their gratuity amount, right? Then I need to create a short-term provision amount for their gratuity amount. So that's how it works. Okay, that's how it works. Next we are having is the asset side. So in asset side, we are having non-current asset. The first thing is fixed asset. Now in fixed asset, we are having tangible, intangible. Tangible is like land, building, plant and machinery, right? Intangible is like goodwill, patent, copyright, right? These are my intangible assets. Then we do have capital WIP, capital work in progress. So let's suppose I am constructing this building, but it is still in progress. It is still in progress. It is not done yet. It's not completed yet. So I can't show it as in my tangible asset, right? As of now, it is not a tangible asset because it is still in process. Once it is done, I can show it in the head of tangible assets. Till then, I will show it as capital work in progress in my building, right? In my balance sheet. So the building which is under construction, plant and machinery which is under construction, everything I will show it in the capital work in progress. Okay. Next is intangible asset under development. Just like we are having a tangible asset which is under development, we call it as capital work in progress. Like that, we can have an intangible asset under development as well. Okay. Let's suppose I'm writing a book, okay, related to accounting. I'm writing a book related to accounting. So then what's the first thing that I will do after writing this book? I will get some copyright protection. I'll file a patent, right? Just like that to protect this. Let's suppose I filed a patent for this book that nobody can copy it, right? I have paid 1 lakh rupees as fee for that patent or copyright, but they haven't granted me that patent or copyright, right? They haven't granted me yet. So it's still in process, but definitely I'll get it in the near future. So as of now, I cannot show it under my intangible asset that I do have a patent of 1 lakh rupee. No, because I am not having it right now, right? So I'll be showing it in intangible assets under development because it is still under development. Okay. Next, similarly, we are having non-current investments. Let's suppose I have a investment in Reliance Industries shares, right? Or I have invested in a company. So I will clearly state it in the non-current investments, right? Then we are having deferred tax asset. Now this is a bit complex concept. We only need to study it from our examination purpose. Okay. I'll try to practically also teach you this concept, but let's not go into too much details of it because it will consume your time and that part will not come in your examination. I'm not telling you deferred tax asset and liability won't come in your examination. It can definitely come in your examination, but knowing each and every reason behind it, like what deferred tax asset and what deferred tax liability is all about, won't be useful for SEBI examination as well as for RBI examination or any other competitive examination, right? Unless you are targeting a professional exam like chartered accountancy or CFA or CS, then it's of no use. Okay, because as SEBI officers, as RBI officers, you don't need to calculate DTA DTL, right? You don't need to go into too much details of this thing, right? But you must be having a good understanding like what DTA and DTA is all about, DTL is all about, right? So there are two types of profits. This is a very interesting concept. Okay, there are two types of profits. The first profit is your book profit, or I can say it as accounting profit. So we guys are studying accounting. We will be computing profit in profit and loss account. So that is called book profit or accounting profit, right? Let's suppose I claimed that I have a profit of 1 crore rupee as per my books of accounts, as per my accounting records. Now, do you think the income tax department will agree on it in every case? No. The income tax department has its own way of calculating the profit, right? So I need to calculate another profit which is as per the income tax department provisions, right? I'll be using the provisions of Income Tax Act and I will be computing my taxable profit on which I will be paying my tax. Let's suppose I have a book profit of 1 crore. Now that's totally my book profit, right? Government of India will disallow me multiple kind of expenditures, right? It's there in the Income Tax Act, various kind of provision. We don't have to study those provisions, but you should be knowing that there are two types of profit: book profit, that is profit as per our accounting records, and taxable profit, which is profits as per Income Tax Act. Okay, so Income Tax Act has a own methodology of computing the profit. You need to take your book profits and then you need to make certain adjustments, right? And you need to pay taxes on the taxable profit. So let's suppose your taxable profit is 1 crore 20 lakh rupees. So I can write 1.2 CR. Okay. Now there is a mismatch. So profit as per your accounting records is 1 crore, but you will be paying taxes on 1.2 crore, right? You will be paying taxes on 1.2 crore. So in accounting, we always have to match the balance sheet. We always have to match the balance sheet. So my book profit is only 1 crore, but they are asking me to pay 1.2 crore as profit, right? As 1.2 crore profit and some taxation on that. In accounting records, I have computed taxation on 1 crore only, but they are asking me to pay taxes on 1.2 crore rupee. Now, where to account for this difference? That's nothing but deferred tax asset and deferred tax liability. So, as a thumb rule, please do remember, if your book profits are less than your taxable profits, then you need to create deferred tax asset. Sir, why this is a deferred tax? Because what happens is, technically, right, not to go into too much details, but in the coming few years, it neutralizes, right? These differences are temporary kind of differences in nature. Eventually they neutralize. So as of now, I need to create an account, deferred tax asset account, if my book profits are less than taxable profit. Sir, this is too technical. Yes, it is too technical and you don't have to learn it. You just need to know that if your book profit is less than taxable profit, then you need to create DTA. Sir, what if my book profits are more than taxable profit? Then you need to create DTL, deferred tax liability. That's how it works. For your examination purpose, only this part will be important. Rest all the other things that I said is not important. But you need to know, right? But you need to be aware of like why there are two kinds of profits, because one profit you will be computing for your accounting purpose and another profit you will be computing for your taxation purpose. That give rise to this difference. And in order to account for this difference, we use the terminologies like deferred tax asset and deferred tax liabilities. Okay. So deferred tax asset will arise only when book profit are less than taxable profit. And you don't have to remember both the formulas. Please, that's my humble request. Only remember this formula. Book profit less than taxable profit, then you need to create DTA. If you will be remembering, if you will try to remember both the things, then it will make a huge mess, right? Just before the examination, why to keep so much burden? Why to take so much burden when you can simplify the things, right? आप इसको सिंपली भी तो पढ़ सकते हो ना. एक चीज याद रख लो, that the book profits are less than your taxable profit, then you will be creating deferred tax asset. That's sorted. अब उसको रिवर्स ही तो करना है एग्जाम में, क्यों प्रेशर डालना, राइट, माइंड पे. सो स्मार्ट स्टडीज करनी होगी हमको, एंड वी कैन सी दैट deferred taxes are in both the sides, deferred tax liability and deferred tax asset. And we can see a word net. That means they come on net basis. That means only one will come. Either it will be deferred tax liability or it can be deferred tax asset. Both will never come in a balance sheet, right? You won't be having deferred tax liability and deferred tax asset both in your balance sheet. You can only have one. That's why we can see that the word net is written in both the sides, right? That's the meaning of deferred tax liability and deferred tax asset. Okay. Next is long-term loans and advances. So don't confuse this term because it's written loans and advances. So you might be thinking like, sir, loans and advances to liabilities hoti. No. These are the long-term loans and advances which I have given. Let's suppose I have given 1 crore rupee to my friend. Then that's an asset for me. I'll be earning interest. He'll be giving me future economic benefit, right? That's an asset for me. Just like non-current assets, we are having current assets. So these are the assets which will be realizable within 1 year, right? In current assets, we are having current investments. Let's suppose I have bought shares of Adani Enterprise. And I do have a short-term perspective that I'll be selling off these shares within 1 year. So these are my current investments. These are my current investments. Inventories, we also call inventories as stock, right? There can be three types of inventories. First one is raw material, work in progress, and finished goods. We already discussed about each and everything in the accounting standard 2. That is inventories, right? Then we are having trade receivables. Acha, trade receivables ko we also call them debtors. Then we are having cash and cash equivalent. So in cash and cash equivalent, we can have bank, we can have cash balance, right? And we can have other cash and cash equivalents as well that we'll be discussing in the coming few chapters, right? Most probably we'll be discussing about this term in the cash flow statement chapter. Short term loans and advances. Let's suppose I have given a short term kind of loan to a friend. Then that's a short term loan and advances which will be repayable within 1 year, right? Within 1 year. So that's how a balance sheet of a corporate entity looks like. Okay, that's how a balance sheet of a corporate entity looks like. Sir, how can we study each and everything in so much detail just before the examination? Now that's an art. I'll tell you how to study each and everything. Like अगर मैं सेबी का एग्जाम दे रहा होता तो मैं इस बैलेंस शीट को इतने लंबे फॉर्मेट में कभी नहीं पढ़ता. ओके, कैसे पढ़ता बताता हूं तुमको. टेक प्रिंट आउट ऑफ दिस पेज. Okay, take print out of this page and start writing each and everything that you know about this balance sheet that I taught you just now in this lecture in your notes. Okay, I'll tell you how. So what I will do is first thing that I will write that it is a schedule 3 format. So this is part 1 of schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013, right? This is a balance sheet. So this shows me financial position, right? Then we are having equity and liability. In the first term, we are having shareholders fund. So in shareholders fund, we are having share capital. So I will definitely write here equity share capital and preference share capital. In reserves and surplus, I will mention some of the examples like general reserve, P&L, capital reserve, like that. In money received against share warrant. Okay, in money received against share warrant, I will write that it is a part of shareholders fund. Okay, and obviously it's a part of shareholders fund only. You can see that it's a 1C, 1 ka C part, right? So it's a sub part of 1 only. So it's equivalent to your share capital only. Okay, it's equivalent to your share capital only. Now for share application money pending allotment, I'll make a diagram over here. I will write February 2024, 1 lakh. In the March, I'll be making balance sheet. So in balance sheet, what I need to do is I received 1,20,000 rupees. Now that's a problem that I have received 20,000 in excess. So this excess money, I will show it on other current liabilities. I will mark it here. This 1 lakh rupee I'll be showing here in money received against money received pending allotment. Share application money pending allotment 1 lakh rupees I'll be showing here. I'll make this diagram actually. If I am giving this SEBI examination 2025 or any kind of examination which is based out of commerce and accountancy, I'll make this format myself. Okay, I'll tell you what is the benefit of making this format. Okay. Then in the long term borrowing, I can have bonds, I can have debentures, right? Or any other kind of long term loan. In deferred tax liability, I will write that when book profits are more than taxable profits, then I will be creating deferred tax liability and I'll link this with deferred tax asset. Why, sir? You will link this because it is always shown on net basis, right? Only one will come. Only one will come, right? Then we are having other long current or long term liabilities, long term provision. Let's suppose gratuity, right? In short term liabilities, we have short term borrowing. So it can be bank OD, it can be CC limit, or any other kind of short term borrowing, any kind of short term loan. Trade payables ko we always also called them as creditors. So I'll write it here. Other other current liabilities, we already mentioned that this excess 20,000 is nothing but other current liabilities, right? Short term provisions, so again it can be gratuity. Now it depends that when the employees are retiring, right? If they are retiring within 1 year, so obviously it will be a short term provision. If they are retiring in more than 1 year, let's suppose second year, third year, then it will be a long term provision. Matters on the basis of how long, right, the liability is coming in. Next is non-current non-current assets. So these are the assets that are of useful for me for more than 1 year. In fixed asset, we do have tangible assets like plant and machinery, building, right? On these assets, depreciation will apply, right? On these assets, depreciation will apply. Sir, what about intangible assets? So goodwill, patent. On these assets, amortization will apply. Sir, what is amortization? Amortization is nothing but depreciation only, but the name changes to amortization because they are intangible assets. So I use the word amortization always. So it's again an examination question only, that in case of intangible assets, what do we apply? Depreciation, amortization, depletion. So we apply amortization, right? Then we have capital WIP. So I can write building under construction. Okay. Then we have intangible asset under development. Here I can write patent in process, right? These are the only examples only that I have taken, right? अभी जो थोड़ी देर पहले हम पढ़ रहे थे यही तो एग्जाम्पल्स लिए थे. सो दे विल बिकम पार्ट ऑफ योर परमानेंट मेमोरी. जब भी आप एक दिन पहले इसको पढ़ोगे, ये 10 मिनट में रिवाइज करोगे. Your competitors will revise this topic in almost about more than 1 hour. Okay, it will take almost 1 to 2 hours to revise this topic of financial statements, right? Only the balance sheet and P&L I'm talking about. There are so many minute concepts, right? Small concepts that you need to remember. Your competitors will need at least 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours to revise this, and you will be revising it in 10 minutes balance sheet ke, 10 minute profit and loss account ke khatam. Right? Now we have covered so many questions. Let me just complete and I'll tell you the importance of these short notes. Okay. Then in deferred tax asset, I can write that whether when the book profits are less than taxable profits, then I will be creating deferred tax asset. In long-term loans and advances, you already know what long-term loans and advances are, right? Other non-current asset, anything जो भी ऊपर नहीं आई वो अदर नॉन करंट एसेट में आ जाएगी. इन करंट एसेट वी हैव करंट इन्वेस्टमेंट, सो यू कैन राइट अडानी एंटरप्राइज. तो उससे याद आ जाएगा, अच्छा सर ने अडानी एंटरप्राइज के शेयर खरीदे थे क्लास में, 2-3 महीने में ही सर बेचने वाले थे. सो दीज आर करंट इन्वेस्टमेंट. इन नॉन करंट इन्वेस्टमेंट यू कैन राइट रिलायंस इंडस्ट्रीज. ये मैंने थोड़ा लॉन्गर ड्यूरेशन के लिए खरीदे थे. ओके. In inventories, you can write stock. Here you can classify it as raw material, as WIP, as finished goods. Okay. Trade receivables, you can write here as debtors. So now if I see this balance sheet, it's a complete mess. I'm so sorry for my bad handwriting. Okay guys. But if you make this thing in your own handwriting, trust me guys, it will take you 10 minutes to revise at least. There must be 10 concepts. There must be 10 questions in this. Okay. So here you are able to do 10 questions that are coming directly in the examination. These questions have come directly in the examination multiple times, right? And you can revise it in 10 minutes, which will take your competitor almost 1 hour to revise, right? एक ही पेज में पूरी बैलेंस शीट खत्म हो जाती है, उससे रिलेटेड सारे कॉन्सेप्ट खत्म हो जाने चाहिए. ओके. So you guys can take screenshot of this as well. Okay, it will definitely help you. Otherwise आपके पास recorded में तो है ही. Okay, so let me check the comment section. I made a note of every example, but this is really helpful. Yes, this will be very helpful. Okay, and you guys will know the importance of preparing short notes just before one day of the examination. Okay. Acha, when I used to prepare for my CA final examination, I used to summarize everything. Okay. मैं क्या करता था, हर चीज की समरी बना लेता था, और जो भी चीज मेरे को टफ लगती थी ना, जैसे मान लो मेरे को बैलेंस शीट टफ लग रही है, तो मैं ऐसा एक चार्ट बनाता था, और जहां पे भी मैं स्टडी करता था, लेट सपोज दिस इज माय स्टडी टेबल, सो मैं इसके पास में चिपका दूंगा, एक डॉक्यूमेंट बनाऊंगा, उसको मैं मेरे स्टडी टेबल के सामने चिपका दूंगा, जब भी उसके सामने से निकलूंगा उसको पढ़ता रहूंगा. ऐसे करते करते 10 बार तो मैं बैलेंस शीट ही पढ़ लूंगा दिन में. और अगर ऐसे मेरे पास 4-5 पेजेस हुए जिसके अंदर मेरा पूरा अकाउंटिंग समराइज्ड है, 10 पेज हुए मान लो, 10 पेज हुए, 12 पेज हुए, वो मेरे सामने चिपके हुए हैं लाइक स्टिकी नोट्स. आई जस्ट गो टू दैट वॉल, आई रीड ईच एंड एवरी 10 पेज पढ़ने में कितना टाइम लगता है? 1 घंटा, 1.5 घंटा. अरे मैं तो 5-5, 10-10 बार रिवाइज कर लूंगा. राइट, इट इज सो सिंपल. बट आपकी हैबिट्स ऐसी होनी चाहिए. राइट, आपकी हैबिट्स ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि आप इतनी बड़ी बड़ी चीजों को कंसाइज कर पाओ. दैट्स अ स्किल. ओके, दैट्स अ स्किल. सो इस तरह से हमको पढ़ना है कि हम आखिरी दिन, यार तुम्हारे कोर्स में कितने सब्जेक्ट हैं? यू डू हैव कॉमर्स एंड अकाउंटेंसी, यू हैव फाइनेंस, यू हैव लॉ, यू हैव इकोनॉमिक्स, मैनेजमेंट, राइट, इकोनॉमिक्स. आखिरी दिन में पागल हो जाओगे ऐसे नहीं पढ़ोगे तो. राइट, यार वैसे नोट्स में एवरीथिंग इज देयर. राइट, you do have last minute revisions also. When you will go into your notes, you can see last minute revisions as well. Most of the chapters के अंदर वो डले हुए हैं. Still I will advise, जो खुद के हाथ से लिखा हुआ होता है ना, वो हमेशा याद रहता है. Okay, so you'll always remember these concepts if you studied thoroughly like this, right? So this is how you will study the balance sheet. I also have to ask some of the questions, but I'll ask these questions in the next class. First I will teach you प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट, एंड इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास वी विल कवर दीज क्वेश्चंस एज वेल. ओके, अगर टाइम बचता है तो इसी क्लास में पढ़ा देंगे. इफ नॉट, देन आई विल बी कवरिंग दैट दोज क्वेश्चंस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास. ओके, सो दिस इज द फॉर्मेट ऑफ P&L. वी कैन सी दैट इट इज प्रिपेयर्ड इन पार्ट 2, शेड्यूल 3, पार्ट 2 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट 2013. So we call it statement of profit and loss account. We don't call it profit and loss account. We call it statement of profit and loss account. Okay. First term is revenue from operation. That means sales, right? Or I can say it as turnover. सब एक ही बात होती है. Sales, turnover, revenue, सब एक ही बात होती है. Okay. So let's suppose if I'm a t-shirt manufacturer, then sales of t-shirt will be my revenue. Okay, then I have other income as well. Sir, what do you mean by other income? Let's say any kind of dividend I received, right? I do hold a stock as well. I do have shares of Coal India. I have shares of BPCL, IOCL, right? Now that's not my operating activity to hold those stocks, but I am receiving dividends. So that's my other income. That's not my revenue from operations. Look, revenue from operations. Is it your operation to hold stocks? No. That's why it's other income. Or let's suppose sale of newspapers, old newspapers. Or let's suppose sale of any kind of scrap, right? So these things will come under other income. Now this is my total income. Business चलाने के लिए there are a lot of expenses. So cost of material consumed. Now these are some of the technical terms. You should be aware of meanings. Okay. Cost of material consumed. So that means raw material consumed. So how do I know how much I have consumed? The formula to calculate consumption is opening stock of raw material plus purchase minus closing stock. Opening stock of raw material plus purchase minus closing stock of raw material. That's the formula to calculate this consumed. Okay? सर नहीं समझ में आ रहा. अरे देखो 100 रुपए का रॉ मटेरियल तुम्हारे पास पड़ा हुआ था. यू आर ऑलरेडी हैविंग 100 रुपी वर्थ रॉ मटेरियल विथ यू. ओके, in this financial year you purchase 200 rupee worth stock more. Okay, you purchase 200 rupees stock this financial year. So 100 तो पहले से ही पड़ा था, 100 तो you are already having and 200 you purchased, so you must be having 300 rupees worth stock, right? But at the closing I can see only 50 rupees stock in hand. So what happened to this 250? अरे obviously बिक गया होगा, कंज्यूम कर लिया होगा तुमने, राइट? अभी कॉस्ट ऑफ मटेरियल कंज्यूम, कौन सा मटेरियल? मैं तो टी शर्ट मैन्युफैक्चरर हूं, आई एम अ टी शर्ट मैन्युफैक्चरर, सो क्लॉथ इज माई रॉ मटेरियल. 100 रुपी का क्लॉथ पड़ा हुआ था, 200 का मैंने परचेज किया, सो आई मस्ट बी हैविंग 300 वर्थ रुपीज क्लॉथ, बट आई कैन सी ओनली 50 रुपी वर्थ क्लॉथ इन एज अ क्लोजिंग स्टॉक. सो 250 वुड बी कंज्यूम्ड. It must have been consumed in the process of making the t-shirts, right? Now that's the formula to calculate raw material consumed: opening stock plus purchase minus closing stock. Okay, and I told you the concept as well कि ऐसा क्यों होता है. Next is purchase of stock in trade. So any kind of stock in trade you directly purchased. Sir, what is stock in trade? अरे I am a t-shirt manufacturer, so I purchased a manufactured t-shirt itself. बनी बनाई हुई टी शर्ट ही परचेज कर ली मैंने. A ready-made t-shirt I have purchased. Now that's a stock in trade, right? I don't have to buy the cloth for this one because this is a already manufactured t-shirt, right? Next is changes in inventories of finished goods, WIP. The formula to calculate changes in inventories, you need to memorize this thing: opening stock minus closing stock. This is the formula to calculate changes in inventory. Now क्या होता है ना, स्टूडेंट्स लास्ट में कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं, वो क्लोजिंग स्टॉक माइनस ओपनिंग स्टॉक कर देते हैं. नो, इट इज ओपनिंग स्टॉक माइनस क्लोजिंग स्टॉक. डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज्ड. ओके, another terminology is employee benefit expense. So any kind of benefit like salary, like bonus, or any kind of incentive that I'm paying to my employees will come under the head of employee benefit expense. Basically any kind of expense जो भी आप employee के लिए खर्चा कर रहे हो वो इस head में आ जाएगा. Then we are having finance cost. So let's suppose I have taken a loan and I'm paying interest on that loan. Now that's a finance cost. That will be a finance cost. Okay. Then we have depreciation and amortization. We have depreciation and amortization. So do remember that depreciation is for fixed assets, or I can call it as property, plant and equipment. And amortization is for intangible assets. Okay, do remember that. Other expenses. Acha, tell me one thing. I do have a saving account or I have a current account in my bank, in any bank. Say let's suppose HDFC Bank. Now bank charges deduct हो गए. They have deducted bank charges from my bank. किस कैटेगरी में आएगा? कौन से एक्सपेंस की कैटेगरी में आएगा? Have a look here and tell me कौन सी कैटेगरी में आएगा? Will it be a employee benefit expense or a finance cost या फिर other expenses? किस कैटेगरी में आना चाहिए as per your opinion? Tell me in the comment section quickly. बैंक चार्जेस, ओके, बैंक चार्जेस डिडक्ट हुए, सो इट्स एन एक्सपेंस फॉर मी. कौन सी कैटेगरी में इट शुड कम? Perfect, Twinkle. Other expenses. Okay. Most of the students answer that bank charges will come under finance cost. No, that is not at all related to the loan. Acha, any charges related to loan will be coming under finance cost, but not the normal banking charges, right? They will come under other expenses only. So I'm writing it here. Bank charges. Okay. Then after deducting all the expenses from our income, we will be getting profit. So profit before exceptional and extraordinary items, and then we will be making adjustment of exceptional and extraordinary item. Sir, what is exceptional, what is extraordinary? Look, the things which are extraordinary in nature will be extraordinary items, like loss by fire. गोडाउन में फायर हो गया, गोडाउन में फायर लग गई, लॉस हो गया, that's an extraordinary item, right? Loss by earthquake, that's an extraordinary item. Sale of fixed assets, that's an exceptional item. अरे फिक्स्ड एसेट मैं कभी बेचने के लिए थोड़ी लेता हूं, राइट? आई डोंट बाय फिक्स्ड एसेट फॉर सेलिंग देम, आई तो बाय देम फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म यूज. Let's suppose I'm buying a building, I'm a t-shirt manufacturer and I'm buying a building. I won't be selling that building, right? I will be using it, but I have sold it in this case, so then it will be an exceptional item. It's not an extraordinary, right? आप बेच सकते हो ना बिल्डिंग, कोई बड़ी बात थोड़ी है उसमें, बट इट विल बी एक्सेप्शनल आइटम, क्योंकि जनरली ऐसा करते नहीं है. ओके, उनका एडजस्टमेंट करने के बाद यू विल गेट प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स. सो नाउ यू नीड टू पे टैक्सेस टू द गवर्नमेंट. वी ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट डेफर्ड टैक्स, राइट? So then you will be having profit after tax. Then you are having profit from discontinuing operation. So it's just a formality. Like, let's suppose I was having two business, and one business I am intending to close it down in the near future. So I will separately mention the profit I am earning from that discontinued operation, right? कि मैं तो बंद करने वाला हूं, उसको अलग से बताओ. जो प्रॉफिट बंद होने वाले बिजनेस से आ रहा है, लेट्स शो इट सेपरेटली, right? So it's a common practice to show it. And what is earning per share, what is basic and diluted EPS, we'll talk about this concept in the chapter ratio analysis in detail. Okay, but not now. We'll talk about EPS in ratio analysis chapter. Okay, right? So this is broadly the format of your profit and loss account. Okay, now I would like you guys to give me few answers, right? So that I can check like whether you are able to understand things or not. So some of the questions will be a bit higher level, right? So try to first think and then answer, don't directly answer. Okay, where you will classify this in balance sheet: unpaid, matured debentures or deposits. So you do have debentures, you have issued debentures to the general public, that's matured now, and you haven't paid it yet. So where will you classify it? Now that's a liability, that's for sure. It's a liability. Okay. But where you will show this in the liability section. Acha, let me open that liability slide for you guys. You can check कि कहां पे इसको क्लासिफाई कर सकते हैं. इज इट सिमिलर टू ईपीएस? यस ट्विंकल, ईपीएस जो हम फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस के अंदर यूज करते हैं ना, वही अर्निंग पर शेयर है ना. पर क्योंकि रेशियो एनालिसिस इसको ऑलरेडी कवर करता है, तो वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग अबाउट दिस इन रेशियो एनालिसिस चैप्टर. ओके, Sure, I'll repeat the question. So the question is unpaid, matured debenture or deposits. You do have debentures, right? They are matured. Now you need to pay them, right? There is a maturity. लोन की भी तो मेच्योरिटी होती है, वैसे डिबेंचर्स की भी मेच्योरिटी होती है. तो आपने डिबेंचर्स होल्डर्स से 1,00,000 रुपीज लिए थे. नाउ दे आर मेच्योर्ड. You are yet to pay them. So now that's a liability. Now कौन सा क्लासिफिकेशन लाइबिलिटी का, कहां पे क्लासिफाई करनी चाहिए, वेदर इट्स अ नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटी और अ करंट लाइबिलिटी. That's the question. Whether it's a non-current liability or a current liability. What's your opinion on this? No idea? Non-current liability or a current liability? The correct answer here is it is a current liability. Most of the students think that they are debentures, so they will be a non-current liability. That's true. Debentures and deposits that you have taken are a long-term liability. But these debentures are now matured. That means you need to repay them, right? And as they are matured, so they are no more a long-term liability or a non-current liability. These are the obligations that you need to settle immediately. Okay, these are the obligations that you need to settle immediately, right? That was the question. Okay. I have almost completed 1 hour, so let's close today's class, because we also have a class in RBI in the coming few minutes, right? So I'll stop here. Okay. I hope you had a great learning experience. So the ones that on hold should fall under in non-current, right, Twinkle? So let's suppose I have issued debentures for 10 years, right? Now debentures, deposits, bonds, usually they are long term only, right? So for 10 years, that means they are non-current liability for me. But let's suppose 10 years are over now. Now I need to repay this. After 10 years, I need to repay this. So that is a current liability for me, because I need to repay them within 1 year, right? Maybe I need to repay them in the coming few days only, because they are already matured, right? So why to classify them as a non-current liability? Because they are actually in sense a current liability now, because they are matured. So that's why I have inserted this word matured here, just to confuse you guys. Okay. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for watching the lecture, and you can also share feedback for my classes, okay, after this class. So आप बताइएगा कि how you like this kind of method. These kind of methods are quite useful, right? So और भी कुछ अगर if you guys feel like if there is any improvement area, then you can share it with me also, okay, and in feedback as well. So I will always suggest you guys to study like this, right? This is a stress free learning. ये एक स्ट्रेस फ्री अप्रोच है. एक बार जब पढ़ रहे होते हो तब तो स्ट्रेस होता ही होता है. जो पहली बार पढ़ेगा उसको स्ट्रेस होता ही नहीं है, राइट? जो पहली बार पढ़ेगा उसको हमेशा स्ट्रेस होता है. बट इफ यू विल स्टडी इन दिस मैनर, like if you have drawn this balance sheet format like this, if you have drawn this P&L account balance like that, जो मैंने आपको एक एक मेंशन करके बताया था, it will surely help you before the examination. इससे आप एक दिन में सारी चीजें पढ़ सकते हो. नहीं तो एक दिन में आप 6 सब्जेक्ट नहीं पढ़ सकते, दैट्स फॉर श्योर, राइट? Okay, guys. So thank you so much. I'm closing today's session. See you in the upcoming classes.